Was Ayla's birth as crazy as the move, or was it seemingly easy?
Ayla's birth was very easy. I think Ayla was born in like minutes. Right?
She was born in 6 hours.
You were like in the morning. You said I have this, or we went to the hospital. I went to take a nap because I was like, oh, it's going to be an all-nighter.
Yeah.
I come back. And
That's a different story. That's a different show. That's a different podcast.
I was like, you were there, and like an hour later we had the child or something.
But
so I was like, it was less than a day.
But leading up to it, because I know that your heart was kind of getting into daddy mode, and I know that, for Ari, you went into this like protection mode and like full on, warrior archetype of like, I need to serve, I need to protect my family. How much of that was different or even heightened because now you were having a daughter?
I don't feel it was heightened for me, at least personally. Mm-hmm. I don't see Ari and Aiyla as much different. I'm more concerned about Ayla's future, mostly because of how society is structured. It feels like, and I'm sure I've contributed in a positive and negative way to the societal structure in one way or another because I am a guy. But currently, how the society is structured, it doesn't benefit women as much as it benefits a man, or doesn't have as many leverages for women as it is for men. There's a lot more pressure on women than it is for men. So Ari might have a little bit of advantage just because of the gender he was born in, and Aiyla might have that disadvantage. I don't know. I hope the world changes by that time. So I may be a little bit more concerned about Aiyla, but I am not necessarily, I don't feel a different emotion in the sense of the love and affection that I have. I know it is said that men feel more affectionate for their daughters. I feel the same affection for both my kids. I feel the same level of responsibility for both my kids.
But it's interesting that you say that you feel that even now, just as a baby, that you feel like she has this like, less of this.
I don't think she has less of it. I think humanity is not structured for women to have less of this.
You don't think we're crushing it? You don't think we're like
women are crushing
kicking
it.
out the patriarchy in many ways?
Yes and no. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it's data. It's not me saying it. Data suggests that it's still very little. I think only about 18% of leadership positions are held by women. That is still a patriarchal society. Most of the money is controlled by women. Most of the billionaires in the world are men. And so we are still a very patriarchal society. It's not very matriarchal or not balanced enough. And there's reasons for it. I mean, we can go into the reasons of why it's structured the way it is. And I do see that the future of humanity needs to lean into matriarchy and needs to lean into really tapping into the power of women. And that's mostly because the society has to become more creative and more emotionally aligned and more mentally present, which is not a focus point of men. If you look at even the books that have been written, if you look at a business book that is being written, and this is like really, you can just check this data, you can Google search it, whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
right? You look at business books that are written by men.
They're all written by men, you're right.
Personal growth books, the good ones, are written by women.
It's very true. Yeah.
Especially the new ones. Like if you look at the newer books, men have lost that advantage because they're not as connected as women on how we are as human beings.
So and that's kind of why I know this is the question about Aiyla, and we're jumping on a tangent, but which I love. But don't you think because of that, now it's starting to shift because all of these like incredible goddesses are now rising and people are now recognizing that truth, that it is starting to shift?
It may be starting to shift, but it needs a lot more than what it is. So I wouldn't just accept that it's happening. And so we can be comfortable with that. I don't think there's still a very big gap because that gap has been set up by generations. It's not a new gap. It's not a gap that was created in the last 50 or 100 years. So it can't be filled in 50 or 100 years. It'll be faster because technology has helped, right? Communication's faster. So it doesn't need hundreds and thousands of years to build that gap. Absolutely not. But at the same point in time, it's not going to come overnight. It may be that the next generation has it easy, not easier, not easy, but the generation after is when they'll really see a change. So we're still talking about 2 generations.
So what now would you say to, I guess, Aiyla and Ari at this stage of their life?
At this stage of their life, but maybe in a few years, not at this stage, because this stage I don't know how much
Okay,
they will
fine,
be willing to receive.
Could even be
I
at
have
this
a
stage.
3-year-old and a 7-month-old. But in a few years, my hope for Ari and Aiyla is that they stay present to the idea that sexual orientation, sex, your gender, all of these things don't really matter when it comes to being human, because humanity is humanity, and love and service is common to everyone. We express it differently because of how we grow up, because of our story, the story that we have all grown up in from our backgrounds. How a man operates as a man is very much influenced by the father figure that they may be working with, and same as for women. And you could only bridge that. You can only bridge that by creating a uniform education where you allow people to be, because our natural instinct as human beings is always to lean towards love and service and contribution, helping another human being. That's our natural inclination.
Yeah.
It may not seem like when we look at the world sometimes, because we look at it from a very dark lens. But if you look at it in
Depending
the
on the person.
Depending on the person, but most people look at it from a very dark. If you looked at television for 10 minutes, you will see the world looks at other people from a dark lens. Very few people have the capability of really looking at the truth of life. And the truth of life is the person that you meet across the street. They are not dark. They are usually very kind, very heartfelt, very loving as a person. They want to support you. They'll come for help. They're not going to run over you. They will most likely stop and care.
See you next time at the Brave Table.